Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to be back here at the US High-Speed Rail Conference in LA. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to start off on the panel that's going to address high-speed rail around the world. And we're going to talk about what's new and what's great. And this time, we're going to switch it around a little bit, and we'll start with the United States of America, because there's some news happening here in the high-speed rail arena. As you just saw in the video, Florida is moving forward with the All Aboard Florida project, and you see a rendering of the train right here. And there's great events have taken place on November 9th. The All Aboard Florida team unveiled the brand for this service. It's called Brightline. And you might have picked up on this on the news. And these trains are going to be powered. They're 125 mile an hour high-tech locomotives, clean Tier 4 EPA diesels, state-of-the-art coaches, 100% Buy America compliant, and they're currently being built in the Sacramento plant that we have here in California. You see a different approach to things in Florida, as usually very colorful, and a big change in the paradigm from what we know as interstate rail travel today in the United States and what Florida is going to have starting 2017. It's a very exciting project. Just a little bit about the route. So All Aboard Florida will connect Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach first, and then up to Orlando. And we'll do that in under 3 hours. And we've talked about that often in these conferences. What does that mean to connect two big cities in under 3 hours? So here is the solution for Florida. And it will connect the state like it's never been connected before. If you talk to folks in Orlando or Miami and you ask them how they get from the one place to the other, they all drive. Nobody flies. It makes no sense to fly with security and with delays and everything else. You can't do it anymore. Before all the security checks, it was possible to fly. Now there's not even any air service. So you are stuck in traffic. There's no other way to get around between the two cities. So this project really provides a completely new way for Floridians to get around in their state. And if you're interested in some more information on the project, there's lots on the website, gobrightline.com or allaboardflorida.com, and how they're moving the project forward. It's a very exciting project. So with that being said, and the start here in the United States for a change, let's look at further developments around the globe and what's happening lately on high-speed rail. There's news happening on the Eurostar. And the German operator has just named the next fleet ICE 4, so we're going to look at that. And look again at where high-speed rail works and why, and some lessons learned for the United States. E320 is the train that runs now between Paris and London and is the latest addition to the very, very successful Eurostar service. The E320 obviously stands for 320 kilometers an hour, so it's 200 mile an hour service. Quicker trains, more destinations. It's a 400-meter long train set, a 16-car train set, and it provides for the growth in that service. A couple views into the interior if you haven't had a chance to ride it yet. This is the standard cabin. Pininfarina design, free Wi-Fi, power outlets, USB ports at every seat. That's the modern way to travel between Paris and London. This is the business class, bold design, chic interiors, unprecedented level of style and comfort to travel back and forth. The dining car. All passengers have access to this car. It's an inviting design, and it's a destination to go and walk on this train and go to have a drink or a snack if you choose to. And it's another way of how you can enhance the traveler's experience on this train. Here's the cockpit, a view into the cockpit. State-of-the-art from train control to all the propulsion technology, everything that's involved in today's service-proven high-speed rail. Justified by the increase in ridership Eurostar has ordered an additional 7 trains from us, so that's for a total of 17 trains. And as mentioned, those are 400-meter trains, so they're equivalents of 34 trains in a 200-meter view of the world that we usually look at for a high-speed train. And this is really providing lots of capacity for growth. Here's a picture of the crew going on board. From the mid-December timetable change in Europe, the E320 will make 16 round trips between Paris and London. It's a seamless way to travel. It's now already a legacy for the UK continent travel. And it's unthinkable how these two cities would work without this service now, 20 years into it, 21 years into it. You can't take this away and think it would work. It would simply not work. And we see that everywhere high-speed rail gets implemented, and it wouldn't be any different here. Once you get this, once it starts running, and once it establishes itself as this new level of service, life without it becomes unthinkable. So with that, let's switch over and cross the border into Germany. The ICE4 is now born. The German operator has named this train ICE4. That was a ceremony this December 4th. It builds on the successful legacy of the ICE fleet, like we've seen in the video before from the 1990s, with the ICE1 trains, the ICE2, the ICE3. This is the latest edition, and it was just named the ICE4, and it will become the new backbone of the intercity travel for Germany. Here's a couple inspirational pictures of how the train looks. It's a 12-car train, 1,135 feet long. It has a very innovative traction concept and the ability to lengthen and shorten trains. It will replace the ICE1 and ICE2 fleets over the years. And if you compare the ICE1 to this ICE4 has a 22% lower energy consumption per seat basis. So it provides, obviously, more seats, and these trains will first go onto the heavily used routes and will enable the operator to provide more seats. There's 830 seats on a train set like this, 205 in first class. And it's very spacious accommodation, modern seats and amenities. It's the next level of what a lot of people around the globe have learned to know from the ICE fleet. So just to give folks a perspective, these trains are now in testing and on their path to revenue service. How long does something like this take? So this contract was signed in May of 2011 between Siemens and the German operator. Car shell production started in November of 2012, final assembly in March of 2014, commissioning in January of 2015, testing in September of 2015. Approvals, the regulatory approvals are expected for 2016, and then revenue service is expected somewhere in the 2017 timeframe. So to be real about this, that's 6+ years. From signing a contract to trains in service, 6+ years on a new development of a train set. And that should just be kept in mind when you develop projects. It takes a long time to design, build, manufacture, deliver, and get approvals for these type of high-tech train sets. Moving on to where high-speed rail stands. It's been this long-standing question, and we've discussed it before, but I think it's important to continue to talk about this on what works and why does it work. So here, market share is charted against trip time, and what you see is that there's a 50-50 between air and rail when you get to the 3-hour trip time. And this is exactly what's happening, or what has happened between Madrid and Barcelona, where the rail sector continues to grow its share against the air sector. And I continue to talk about the fact that Madrid-Barcelona is very similar to LA, San Francisco. And the expectation clearly is there that a very similar thing would happen in California, and that rail very rapidly would take 50% of the market share. And similarly, although with a different technology, it's the same story for Florida. It's offering a train ride in under 3 hours between Orlando and Miami, and it can be done with diesel electric and a lower cost solution there, but it's the same approach. If you get under 3 hours of trip time, rail becomes unbeatable. And that's really the sweet spot, and that's really a big portion of what California High-Speed Rail is about. And we should not forget that these things need to be tied into the overall travel patterns. It needs to be part of an overall transportation system. Connectivity is key, and we're very fortunate in California to have a California statewide rail modernization plan that looks at how high-speed rail and the rest of the network will work together, the existing and the future network. And that's of very high importance. It's also important to have intermodality, to have these things connected. The key to great ridership is to have high-speed rail in a supportive environment. And it was discussed already on this conference, and there were some very good tours yesterday here in Los Angeles. And it's very exciting to see how Los Angeles is preparing for high-speed rail to come into LA Union Station with a regional connector and with extensions to light rail and other improvements. And with that, high-speed rail will become a success. But it's important to plan ahead, and all these things take years to dream up and then build. And not to underestimate the ease of using the system, right? When high-speed rail goes online, we should all be able to, with a touch of a button, go from where we are to where we want to be, and not worry about different tickets, different ticket machines, different fare structures, or whatever. And that's really going to be key in making it very accessible for everybody in the state. One other aspect that was also mentioned by Jeff and other speakers before is what happens at these stations. And here's an example. So you see a couple pictures of the Berlin Main Station, which was built after the wall came down on empty space where the wall basically was. And it's one of these many, many examples of what happens at a station locations like that. That station has developed as a new hub, and it creates endless opportunities around it. And when you follow it over the last 15 years, what's just going on around the station, and the fact that you not only have intercity trains coming in from 2 directions, but you have the subway underneath, you have the light rail coming in now, you have all sorts of other connectivity. It's more than moving people on shiny trains. It's really about economic development, and it's about jobs. If you have a chance to see the Berlin Main Station, take some time and walk around it. It's not only a fabulous architecture that you find there, but when you get there and you look around and you walk around and you see a station that's so heavily used and so alive from morning to night, and then you imagine this type of station right over here at LA Union Station, and what that does to the neighborhood, and what that does to downtown LA, and how that completely changes everything when you get that type of an activity center into a neighborhood. Then you can really imagine what California High-Speed Rail can be for the state and for the cities that it serves. So moving on from lessons learned, from all of this, what can we actually derive for the US, and what's happening lately? First and foremost, there's regulation. Everybody has to meet regulation, otherwise you'll never get an approval to run a train. And there's been progress made, so this is just a quick update on where we stand on that front, on the regulatory development. So the FRA has had, since 2010, this Rail Safety Advisory Committee Engineering Task Force. Siemens and others have been very active in that to move the agenda forward of what can actually be approved in the United States to run on the rails for high-speed rail. That will be trains from 125 miles an hour to 220 miles an hour. And there's been great progress made on the definition of high-speed rail, crash energy management, fire safety, glazing, brake systems, all sorts of things have been addressed. This goes through a so-called NPRM process, a Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. There's two sequential NPRs that have been developed. The first one is basically awaiting release, signed off by the FRA administrator and awaiting release, and then it will become an official document. And the NPRM2 is still being worked on with other topics, and the industry and the consultants and labor and other parties continue to work on that to make sure we get a very strong, good regulation that the US can move forward with in high-speed rail. And this regulation is basically the background that then enables, the industry to perform, and knowing that these type of trains and equipment can be approved under the FRA regulation. Famous last words, a few last words. And this is not new to anybody. It's been said before. High-speed rail is always controversial. It's the same story everywhere you go. It might feel harder here in California, but I don't think it's necessarily harder than in other places. There's a high-speed line in Germany currently being built that should have opened 15 years ago, and we're hoping for 2017 for opening. So it isn't necessarily easy, and and it takes time, and it takes a lot of support from all sorts of people. There's always the critics and the skeptics, and they will always be there. And there's large amounts of energy that need to be expended to move a project forward, and to justify all the actions that come with that. However, in all the countries where high-speed rail has been introduced, the general population is extremely happy with the service after a very short time. The governments start calling these things of national interest. More investment gets planned for expansions of the systems. The critics never really go away, but they become a lot quieter. And with that, keep on moving forward. So, in closing, Siemens has been a supporter of the US High-Speed Rail Association for many years, and we continue to do so. We think it's very good to have positive message out there about what high-speed rail can be for the United States. We've also supported this with two independent studies. That's the US Conference of Mayors study on high-speed rail and the Midwest High-Speed Rail study that look at the economic benefits of high-speed rail. Siemens is supporting the Railroad Museum in Sacramento now. They have opened a high-speed rail exhibit called Fast Tracks. That's very worth seeing. So if you're up in Sacramento, you can do that. And Siemens is supporting that effort with a high-speed rail mock-up. And with that, thank you very much, and I'll be available for questions later. Thank you.